Okay, great. So just to recap, when you log into the application, you're going to default into this conversation screen, and you're going to go into a new conversation. On the left side, you can see conversations I've had over previous days. I can free text search across those. So there's every time I talked about AWS, and it'll pull those conversations up. So if you're looking for something where you had a conversation last week and you just want to go look at the details or continue it, you can go through and do that. In the middle here, we have a model drop-down menu. I'm not personally displaying all 21 models that are available, but if you want to expose those as a user in the user interface to yourself, you can go in and check all of the available models here. It looks like in the system administration panel, I'm not exposing all of them, but the user can display individual models, or if they just want to, if I just want to see GPT-4o and Claude, I can choose them individually, or I can just click the checkbox and do that as well. I think specifically you wanted to talk about assistance a little bit, so I'm going to jump over to the Vanderbilt side where we built one around HR, and then we've exposed it a couple of ways. And we've exposed it within the UI itself. So anybody on campus can log in, they can go to PCB and they can chat with Quincy. One of the things it's going to ask you when you first go into it is it needs to know whether you're a faculty member, if you're a visitor, postdoc, if you work for the hospital, or if you're a staff member. I'm a staff member, so I'm going to mark staff, and I'm just going to say update direct deposit information. And so while that's doing it, it can take anywhere from 5 to 10 seconds for that reply to come back. So when we talk to the HR office, one of the things they said is they get 30,000 emails a year about basic benefits questions. And that could be, how do I update my direct deposit? It could be, how do I check my PTO balance? It could be, I need to update, my I-9, or I'm on an H-1B. What's the process for changing roles within the university? And so we looked at all of those questions, and they had all of this documentation that they used internally to answer those questions. And so we provided those as a source to this assistant to answer those questions, and then we gave it a set of instructions that guided it in that process. And so you can see here, it returns the answer, and not just returns it, but it also gives me the source that it pulled that from. So I can take this direct deposit link, and I can download that file if I want to look at the original source documentation to verify that, that is actually, what the answer is accurate and the process is accurate. I can also go down here to the bottom of the reply, and I can look at the sources, and it's going to not just give me the document, but it's going to talk about the relevant sections where it pulled that information from. And so you can look through that, and again, just use that as a means to verify that, hey, this is the information, it is accurate. And you can see down here this payroll check distribution PDF. I don't have a link to that in the body of the response, but it's included in the sources. And the reason for that is we expose the sources that are sent off to the large language model to provide an answer. The large language model only returns the download link in the body of the response if it was used in its reply. So it looked at that information, decided it wasn't relevant to the question, and so there's no link to download it within the body of the reply here. But it is included in the sources that were provided to the model to provide that answer. And we use this. You can see down here, there's the users can provide a rating, and I'll show you where that comes into play in just a second. So I'm going to go in here to the edit screen for this, and I'm going to show you. So within this assistant, we can enforce the model selection. So I can say, hey, I need you to use Claude 3.5 Sonnet. I want to track the conversations, and not just track them, but I've got this category list that I've applied to it. And I want you to analyze that conversation and assign it to one of these categories so that I can collect some metrics about how this assistant is being interacted with. And then this is where I set up those group types where it asks me different questions. Where it asked me who I was when I logged in initially. The more information that you add, to the underpinning, the assistant and the database that underpins this, the more information you add to it, you want to make sure that there's not conflicting information within that. So if you have an old policy that's in there that you've updated, you want to make sure you pull that old one out if you apply a new one. Or if you've got two policies that maybe say conflicting things, you want to clarify that, because you'll start to see that in your responses. And I'll show you a way that you can start to track that too.
Great.
So within these group types, I've got faculty, staff, postdoc, and we're not currently doing it, but the advantage of this is I can use the same assistant to ask, the user can hone in on a subset. So this is all about benefits here at Vanderbilt, but we have different benefits across these position types. So if you're a postdoc, you have a different set of benefits. If you're a faculty member, you have access to different benefits as well. And so within those, I can go in and I can assign different instructions to each of those groupings. I can also assign different data sources to those as well. And currently we're not doing that, but we're set up for it as we go forward. So as I click on staff member, I can use the documents that are assigned to everybody, and then I can add some complementary ones as well with a secondary set of instructions for it to look across. And so you can see here, it's just a core set of instructions in here that tells the assistant what to do. And then underneath that, we have this disclaimer, and you can append a disclaimer to any assistant that you have. And whether it's a personal assistant or whether it's one of these larger group ones that we access through the API. And what this does is it says that no matter the response that you return back to the user, you're always going to append this disclaimer to it so that you've got some protection. If the large language model did happen to hallucinate based on the information you've given it, you can always add this disclaimer to say, hey, you need to verify this, download that source that's attached, or reach out if you've got any questions. And so this can be any text or link or anything you would like for it to be. And then down here in the sources, you can see that this assistant, it has 150, I think it's 159. Nope, 165 different documents that underpin this. And so, and they range from, tax info to employee verification, holidays, paid time off, bereavement leave. And so you can see it has a very wide database of knowledge that's attached to it. So this dashboard just shows how this assistant is being interacted with. And so I can see, hey, this is my category distribution. I showed you that earlier. We can see that, 21% of the questions that come in are all about benefits. We get a performance rating here, and this is whether it was the user rating it or whether it was the system rating it. And you can see those are pretty in line with each other. And then if I start to see my satisfaction dropping off, I can jump into the conversations and I can look at individual ratings here. And I can start to get a sense of, hey, what's going on? The user didn't rate these, but I've got the system rating available to me. And so I can go in and say, okay, let's look at this conversation. It came in through the website. And so tells me, hey, this is how you update your direct deposit. And so you can see if you had something that had a bad rating, you could go in there and look at it and get a little better idea about, hey, where did this go off the rails? What do I need to do to reinforce that? So Amplify, we have an assistant here, this Amplify API assistant that can guide you through that process. So I have an assistant that's an Amplify that I'd like to call via a PHP application externally. And we're gonna see what we get back. And so what this is doing is it's going in and looking at our API documentation that we've exposed to the assistant, and it's saying, okay, here are the endpoints that they've exposed, and here's the data body that I'm expecting. And the language model knows PHP already. And so then it's just a matter of doing some testing, and then seeing if it works for your needs. And you can do this you have to create an API key, which is available to you under the accounts section here in Amplify. And you create an API key, and then you can limit that API key. Oh, I have to create an account first. 1 second. PHP. And you can put a rate limit on this. So if this was on your public website and you were worried about, some crazy spend on it, like if you were getting hacked or something like that, you could put a rate limit on this so that it, I'm going to put a daily limit of, let's say $5. I'm going to save that. And then if I jump over into the APIs, I can create an API key. Okay, so I'm going to assign this to PHP. And then I can say under the rate limit, I'm going to utilize that same rate limit. I'm going to say $5 a day. If I had multiple API keys assigned to the same account, maybe I would want to only set this one to $2.50. You can do that as well. You can put expiration dates on these. So if you want to force rotation every 12 months, something like that, you can set the expiration date. For system use is if we're going to assign it to a group assistant. And then you can go under access controls and decide, what is this assistant going to be doing? If I'm going to be making external calls, I want to limit it to only what it needs. And so it's going to be an assistant, but I also know that it needs to access documents. So I would choose assistants and the dual embedding. And then I'm going to say create key. And then now I can take this key and I can go make calls externally to Amplify from whatever application I need to. And so you can write any API you want and expose it to the interface. And so if you know the APIs for the ERP system that you're calling, you can either choose to do it through this interface. You can go write individual API calls to do what you need to, or you could integrate it just through the open source side. You could deploy a service that would attach those those various API calls to your specific instance. But that's all available through that custom function. And then once you've defined a custom function, you can schedule that to happen whenever you would like. So I can go in and say, run this report. And I can schedule it for daily. I can either choose an assistant or I can choose an action. And those actions are anything that I've exposed to myself. So I've got a 7-day look back on my email. I can go fetch the weather. I can look across my emails and see what's waiting for a reply. And those are all just actions that I've defined and made available to the system.